Today we're going to compare the Samsung S10e versus the OnePlus 7 Pro, and both of these are really good Android phones, but let's just compare the cameras because the Samsung does have 2 cameras on the back, whereas the OnePlus has 3. So this is a quick low light test of the front facing camera, and I'm in the city next to a building with a bunch of lights, so I'm pretty well lit right now. But yeah, let's move on to the next section. Starting off with the portrait mode, my experience on the Samsung S10e is way better than the OnePlus 7 Pro. And here's why. When I point at something like a simple object, the Samsung picks it up right away. On the OnePlus, I would have to move around to recompose the picture just to get it to work, and sometimes it doesn't. When I tap on the screen, I can see the effect working, and all of a sudden, it stops. And if I want to take a picture of something in my hands, on a Samsung it's easier because of the focal length is way wider, so it picks it up right away, whereas on the OnePlus it's kind of slow and sometimes it doesn't even work. And if it's too dark, then the OnePlus will tell you that it requires more light, whereas on a Samsung I still have no problems. For the front-facing camera, everything looks more pleasant on the Samsung, and it also has a lot of effects for the background blur, whereas on the OnePlus there's really nothing much going on. And out of all of the effects, the color pop on the Samsung is by far my favorite one. For everyday situations on the ultra wide angle lens, the Samsung is by far the widest one. So if you like that super wide look with some distortion, then Samsung is the better pick. For the ultra wide on the OnePlus, it's not super great, especially if you're pointing at something with a light source. During daytime, it's decent, but especially when you get to nighttime, you will see a lot more flaring and it kind of destroys the images. But for the coloring, the OnePlus is more natural looking, whereas on a Samsung is a bit more saturated. So if you really like the colors to represent as much as real life, then OnePlus is the way to go. And then the OnePlus does have a telephoto lens, which is a hit or miss. Sometimes it looks sharper and cleaner than the Samsung, and sometimes it doesn't. For low light, I would still pick the Samsung over the OnePlus just because from my experience on the OnePlus, using the telephoto lens and the ultra wide angle lens isn't that great. I would just stick using with the main camera lines throughout most of the time. And the camera performance as well. When I'm taking pictures and if I want to change focal length or zoom in, do just little things on the camera, everything feels so much smoother on the Samsung, whereas on the OnePlus, it's a bit choppy. Now for my night mode experience, again, Samsung wins hands down. My biggest problem with the OnePlus is the wording. It says that it's captured and it's optimizing, so I thought I can move. Apparently I can't, so I would have to stay there until the whole wording is gone and then I can see my clear picture. And sometimes it's not even that clear, especially if you don't have any stable hands, or if it's super cold out, your hands are shaking, then most of the time your picture will still come out a bit blurry. The colors aren't also that consistent as well, and the difference between the night mode and the regular mode is not that big. So I might as well still use the main camera mode on the OnePlus to still get almost the same image. Now moving on to video in 4K 30, the Samsung is a bit wider, but for stabilization they are really identical. The coloring is a bit different, and one thing I noticed recording on the OnePlus is that it doesn't look stabilized while I'm recording on the screen, but after playing back and seeing it after, it is stabilized. On a Samsung, you can shoot on the ultra wide angle lens for video, whereas on the OnePlus, I don't see an option for that. And they both can shoot 4K 60 not stabilized. So as you can tell, I'm walking on this brick road. You can tell that it's really shaky. Now the coloring is also really identical. The difference is really close, way closer than the 4K 30. For low light shooting, there's more micro jitters on the OnePlus, so overall image quality is going to be sharper on the Samsung. And the coloring is more natural and a bit brighter on the OnePlus, so that is a good pro. And finally, for 4K 60, I would not consider using it on the OnePlus at all because it's so noisy and there's so much artifacts going on. I would just skip it and just stick with the 4K 30. So that is my comparison between these two phones. On a Samsung, everything is so well packaged and well rounded, whereas on the OnePlus, the best thing about it is the main camera lens. Everything else falls out short. But using a OnePlus as a regular phone, it's a really good choice because it's budget friendly with really good value. For a dedicated camera phone, I would not suggest it. If you are interested in any of these products, I do have links down below. Please follow me on Instagram, give a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.